right. Welcome back from Independence celebrations. I know somebody out there could be now wondering whether to go to work or perhaps give excuses to the bosses. I'm saying get up, go work, because the sun is already up. And the cockcrow, of course, did go some hours ago. So that means it is really a bright morning, a new one in Arua City. I want to welcome you on board. From wherever you're watching us from, thank you so much for joining us. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV, channel 477, that's now Start Times. And we are as well there on Zuku, where we're on channel 0073. In case you are a decoder, you can't be in position to watch us from anywhere. And that is the beauty of it all. And when I talk about being anywhere, across borders, you can still be in position to watch us anytime from any part of the world. All you need to do is have a device that is connected to the internet, and you search for West Nile Television on all the social media platforms, where you will be in position to watch us live each and every morning. And that is the beauty of it all. I want to welcome you board. I hope you had a wonderful independence celebrations. And this is where we did see so many people going out, and I was able to listen to music from all the clubs across the city. It means that all the areas had at least the speakers working yesterday. But the question is, how did you spend your day? And how did your independence celebrations go? For me, it was quite well, where I was at Elifra Playgrounds, that's Nanduparaka, where we were able to join the rest of Arua City in hosting this day. And this is actually the beauty of it all. But the biggest issue that came out in there is actually demand by the people of Ivory Division, that is for the disintegration of the division into smaller units, because they claim and say that the division is too big, making it difficult for access of social services to reach out to the ordinary person. So I think that is quite good, because if you look at the size of Ivory, where they gave an example of somebody from Riki who could be able to be required to move, that is Tonduparaka, for a service that could also just be given to them in the nearby area in there. Because if you look at Ivory, it actually surrounds Arua City, and that is why they are saying this division is too big. It actually hosts and also really covers the areas of Central Division, hosts them inside, and that is why it becomes very big for them to also really talk about the demand of also this the division to be disintegrated for further smaller units in there, which I feel is really quite good, because if you look at the size of the division, trust me, it's a bit big, and it's still huge, where issues of social services may not be able to reach out to the ordinary person. So how does that impact on service delivery? Definitely, I want to say it has its own implication, where we must also really be able to talk about. So I think that is where it becomes quite important, and for us to also really talk about this issue here. But all in all, I want to assure you it has its own implication, that is on service delivery. But what is at the end of the day to that ordinary citizen who requires maybe services from a division in there? But all in all, I want to assure you that is something I did go on yesterday. But we are keenly following up to see how this goes and how this will be able to end in there. Because if you look at that, that is an area which must also really be given keen attention to, and must also really be dealt with. Because if you don't talk about the issues of the division, then you will not know why it is important for the division to be disintegrated. And today I want to give you an example of Rubaga, which was also carved out of also other divisions in Kampala to form also that division in there. Today, of Ivory feel, due to the overwhelming size, just like Kampala, Arua City must be broken into smaller units. And when we started up the city, it was started with only two divisions, that is of Central and Ivory Division, which make up the two divisions of Arua City. But if you look at the size, Arua Central Division was made out of the former two municipalities, that is of Arua Hill and the Rivoli Division, to form up the Central Division. And if you look at Ivory, the former 7 sub-counties were merged to form the division, so making it quite big. If you look at 7 sub-counties of the division of Ivory, then you will know why it is actually important for us to be talking about Ivory Division to be broken up into smaller units. Look at the divisions, the 7 divisions, former sub-counties of Ivory that were merged to form the division. These are actually huge, huge sub-counties. So you look at a service that could be required by a person of Riki. He or she has to be forced to move up to Nduparaka. What does that imply, and what does that mean to service delivery? Or maybe let's talk about somebody who may be able to require some social services from Nduparaka, but the person is residing in Otramachako. So what does that mean? It means that also the issues of service delivery in one way or the other is going to be affected. So dividing or creating more divisions, in my own opinion, out of Ivu division will be good. Maybe we can start with Ivu East and Ivu West at the moment, and then we could make them as divisions. And then at the end of the day, this goes by. So I think it's quite important because we already have the demarcation of Ivu East and Ivu West. And if at all we made them as divisions, as independent divisions, then that will be quite good because they are counties. We have 2 counties of Ivu East and Ivu West. And that is why we're having 2 legislators also from Ivu in there, but the division is still known as 1. So I think creation of more divisions, in my own opinion, will be quite good. And that was also the one issue that very much surfaced during the independence celebrations of Ivu division that was at Elifra Playgrounds. And that is one thing which I feel is quite well and quite good for us to also be talking about. But what are the leaders saying? What the mayor of Arua City actually also acknowledged the crowd that this matter has already been notified, also presented before the president, where he is aware, and said he wrote a letter which has also already been received for creation of more divisions out of Ivu, but expressed disappointment by some of the leaders who are demanding for a district instead of working on the division in there, and that is an area that which we feel must also be talked about, because if you look at issues of also the division, it's quite good, it's really divided, it's quite good, but how do we pursue this matter? How do we demand for the issue of the division to be broken? Because we are talking about the division to be broken down, others are elsewhere talking about creation of new district out of Arua City. Maybe let's say Ivu district. Are we ready for that? These are the questions only somebody out there could be interested in wanting to know. But then the question also is that, do we have the resources? Can Arua City accept this? Because one of the conditions for Arua City to be granted city status was that they needed a huge chunk of land. Of course, which land is mostly found in Ivu division. So will it be ready? Will it also be ready for Arua City to give up on Ivu and then maybe go back to a municipality status, or maybe perhaps a district status? I don't think that will be possible. But we are following up on this matter to see if at all more divisions can be created out of Ivu instead of advocating for a district. Because I think really the issue of the district is one thing that cannot be able to solely be talked about this time. And this time around, our focus should be on development, and that is what exactly the Resident City Commissioner for Arua City, that is Salim Kumakech, who was the chief guest at this function, also was able to also give out to the various leaders where he called for unity and also assured of maximum security as this matter will be pursued, and said they will be following up on this matter to see how it goes and how it ends in here. Because if you look at the issue, then you realize that many people have been talking about this issue, and he actually said as security they remain committed, as his office is not going to be working with any party as this matter is being pursued, but assured of maximum security and also already of giving this report to President Museveni. And if I can be able to quote him, and he said, this is what he is going to be reporting to the president, and this is this is the kind of politics that is being taking place in Arua City. So I think it is one thing that is quite important, and for us to also be talking about when we talk about these issues of independence. And I want to show you yesterday, the President, His Excellency Kaguta Museveni, was also able to talk about the road via Arua City connecting to Central Africa Republic. And I want to show you the President of the Republic of Central Africa was also among the dignitaries who joined us in celebrating this day, and that tells us of the kind of bond that the people of Uganda should be having with the people of Central African Republic, which is really something quite good. But really, how ready are we for all this? And this development that we are talking about when it comes to this road that is going to be passing via Arua City and connecting up to Central African Republic. When we talk about this road, this is actually a direct connection hub to 3 districts and 3 countries, sorry, when you talk about it, 3 countries that have been connected by this road of Arua City, you will realize that this road is a direct link to Central African Republic, it's a direct link to DRC, and a direct link that is to South Sudan. So this is really one of those roads that which I feel must also really be talked about. And the president did hint on it yesterday, and the construction of this road, that is also to Central African Republic via Arua City in there. That is really quite good. It's quite good also for us to be talking about this, and that was at Busia, where so many leaders also really joined to celebrate this day in here. Those who were not able to also come, we are able to see them also really still extending happy independence celebrations. That is to the country, and that's the country of Uganda, where we are celebrating 62 years anniversary of independence in there. That was also the way back to 1962, how we used to sing, how we used to dance on Independence Day. Really was quite good when we all saw a reflection, or what we call a throwback to what we did see yesterday, where the leaders organized the colorful function, where the schools came in numbers. Most of the schools, the primary schools of Arua City were actually there, where over 2,000 turned up for the celebration. Quite good for us to also be seeing this. And I want to thank the organizers of these independence celebrations and for selecting Elifura. So I think it is really a venue that was not by mistake. It was able to accommodate all the people who came in there. And I believe, just like Elifura, if at all Central Division, which of course will be likely the next place to host these celebrations, will also be going down at the Rock Primary School playgrounds. This is actually where today most of the organizations of the city are being held. But for Ivo, we sit on a rotational base. The last time was at Ombachi, because this is the third time Arua City is hosting these independence celebrations. The first time was, I do understand, it was at Ombachi Primary School playgrounds, and that was St. John's, sorry, which did go on very well. And this time around, we have seen it also being pushed. That is to Elifra after also really hosting it. This time around, we hope it will be going down to Central Division, and we shall be seeing how the organization, of course, will be going on. But really, to acknowledge the leaders, we must appreciate them. We must also appreciate and acknowledge the efforts that they did put towards the organization of this function, which they did go on really well, where food was enough, where refreshments were a bit enough. That is why we must appraise the organization, because we may be talking about independence celebrations as other districts who will be planning to commemorate it. So I think that is where it becomes quite important for us to acknowledge all the districts that we are able to solely organize this day in here. And of course, one of the districts that was able to organize the Independence Day was Adjumani district, which I already did see going on colorfully, and where many people also joined to see to it that also take part in this year's celebrations. And that's not only the only districts like Madioko, district like Terego, we are also really able to also organize in there. But that is also where we want to sample at Juma district to also see how the celebrations did go on in there. Our correspondent, Alan Onzima, is on ground to also give us an update of what exactly transpired in there. Alan, good morning. You're most welcome.
Yes, good morning, Majid.
Yes. How did the celebrations go that side of Adjumani? Because in Arua City, for us, we had a colorful function where the parade was really quite well and quite interesting. Just like maybe the national celebrations, because if you look at the national celebrations, I'll be telling you how exactly it went on. But how did it go in Adjumani?
Yeah, well, Majid, Adjumani district celebrated their 62nd anniversary day of independence yesterday at the BIA Primary School ground, which was on Wednesday, and the celebration has been marvelous and well, where we have got around 74 institutions who came for the celebration, and whereby the guest of honor happens to be the RDC of Adjumani, Tabanda Tapita, who actually urged the unities among the people of Adjumani, and also the LC5 of Adjumani district. Honorable Nyama Ben also calls upon the people of Adjumani to be together with the refugees, because they are the largest district who host
The
the
refugees.
refugees in Ajumani district, and he calls upon them to be together with the refugees.
Okay.
And the day has been very nice, and even right now I'm seeing people are still moving around in town. There were others were from the discos and so on. It's like the day has been so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any bad stories reported yet? Maybe in terms of accidents or perhaps bad things, because on this day, big days, usually we see tendencies of it ending badly. Do you have any stories so far?
Yeah, well, for the first time, Jumani on such occasion have not yet received any cases of accidents, because I was like seeing the traffic officers were in every corner. Even up to night hours, they worked almost up to 11 p.m. To guide people how to use the road, because one of the top story was about the LCCD saying the issues of accident is so alarming in Ajuman district, since Ajuman received the road, a very nice road from Atiaki to Omi, and the rate of accident is becoming so alarming. But for the one of yesterday, we have not yet received any body report about the road accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, any last words?
The last word is I appeal to the people of Uganda to be united and to celebrate the day, and also wish them to be one Ugandan and respect one another in terms of developing our country.
Okay, I thought you were about to say one Uganda, one people, and fortunately enough, you did not say that. And really, that is Arna Nzima, our correspondent from Ajuman district, giving us an update of what exactly transpired in the district as per yesterday when it comes to the independence celebrations. And really, all in all, I think we had one scenario that was common. That was the discourse. So I don't know why people want to celebrate the big days usually by going to discourse. Can't we do other things maybe to differentiate how we have always honored these celebrations? Because Uhuru is always Uhuru. The way pills, we are dancing. Quite interesting. The parades were really quite nice. All that was what we did see happening at the Lifra playgrounds. And of course, at the national scene, we did see the soldiers, the members of the forces putting on helmets. And this is a new development which is said to be introduced by the commander of the CDF. That is Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who actually is the one said to have introduced all this. And the President, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, of course, did go on to praise him for also introducing these initiatives and making the parade shorter. And this is one area which I feel is a new development, and a new development also which we must acknowledge, where people were able to put on helmets. Members of the forces were able to put on helmets. What indication is that? Maybe why is it happening now? And why are we introducing this at this time? Because someone may be asking, we have never seen this kind of development. This is a new development, and for us who have always visited to see parades, this is really one observation where we were able to sort of see. And that was not the only observation. And another observation was also really that people, the way the parade was being conducted has been different, where maybe the anthems could be sung last. No, this time around it was a bit different, and it was really short, and which also the president did ask the leaders, most of the politicians, to also really emulate by shortening their speeches, which is really quite good, because many of times you move to functions, a politician feels they need to talk for longer, which is not really bad if at all they have points. But somebody talks for more than 40 minutes, forget that there are people who are tired, who want to go home, there are sick people here who want to leave. And that is really quite good. But in Arua City, of course, I want to acknowledge and appreciate all the leaders for making their speeches a bit shorter. And the person who spoke long spoke at most 10 minutes. Others were less than 5, others 2 minutes, others 3 minutes, which is really quite interesting, where we must keep time, because always the saying is, time is money. And indeed, if indeed we are going to be keeping in one place, then we risk wasting time on issues also which we could be able to deliberate on. And that is also the where we wouldn't also really do much when it comes to those issues in there. And that is one area which I feel I need not to leave out as we get to move on with the show, but really the president also did come out to say the government can't employ every Ugandan. What does that message mean? Where the president, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, has emphasized that while his government is implementing measures to lift people out of poverty, it's unrealistic for it to also employ all the citizens, and it's also unrealistic for you as a citizen to be expecting that everyone will be employed in the government. Now, according to Museveni, that is also a government jobs also structured but with limited vacancies, offering for fewer positions compared to the country's population, and that is one area which we must also be able to solely have on in our mind as we talk about this. Because if at all we don't talk about this, and then somebody out there may not be in position to understand why this is coming. Today the government has a number of poverty eradication programs. For instance, the MIOGA, the Parish Development Model, the GROW, the Bonabagagawa, the Youth Livelihood Programs. All that is to make sure that people move out of the poverty bar line. But how do we take advantage of all these programs? Because this is another message that very, very much surfaced in our independence celebrations. Because really, you realize most leaders have a task to play, because leading poor people, according to messages that we did see yesterday, is a huge task. Because they are going to be thinking that it is you to do everything for them as a leader. So I think empowering the people, first of all, on mindset change is quite good, and encouraging them to take on the other government programs is really, really quite important. And Museveni's comments come amidst the growing concern of employment in the country. If you look at unemployment rates in the country, today it is actually high. But how do we end this? And how do we address the gaps in the employment sector? How can we work towards that? It's really what matters for us to solely talk about this. Now, to boost the economy, Mr. Museveni announced plans to construct the standard gauge railway from Kasese to Malaba, which is really another strategy which we feel will be able to solely address on the concern of unemployment in the country. And he urged citizens that is to solely embrace poverty alleviation programs, for instance, the Parish Development Model, the MIOGA, which are in place. And of course, for the women entrepreneurs, we have a baby program that is being born, which is being rolled. And this is only for those who are into business. If at all you're having a business, a formal business, maybe you are selling juice, maybe you are selling food, maybe you are having a small boutique, but you're employing people and you have it licensed, registered with the government, and you are a SB, then you qualify for these funds. It is actually to enable you grow your businesses from that small scale enterprise to what may be middle income. And for those who are in the middle income, you still qualify for these funds to also grow your business bigger in there. Because if you look at a bigger business, we also going to be seeing it employ a bigger population. And that is why government today, under this GROW project, which is coming with funding from also the US government, which is already a grant that is being given to the people of this country, who are so those in the refugee hosting districts, and also the others out of the refugee hosting districts. This project is actually for you, where there's a portion for refugees who are into business. Then all you need to do is have that business registered. You could be in Terego, which is another area that is known for hosting refugees. Then start opening up your hands for this business, and this also funds. For you is in Mariokolo, still you qualify for these funds. But how are you setting yourself? How are you positioning yourself to have these funds is what matters. How do you position yourself? That is the question always we must ask ourselves as we await these programs. It's really quite good for us to also position ourselves and say, indeed, I want to benefit from these funds. How are you going to be benefiting from it? How do you also intend to benefit from this money is what really matters. And today, that is where we also knock the offices of the finance officers, the commercial officers, the parish chiefs, to explain for us. If we don't have them, what about the community development officers? We have the CDOs in place. Let's go to them, ask them about these projects. Ask them about these government poverty eradication programs. How are they working? How can I benefit from them? So that they can't be able to solely explain to you what to do in terms of also accessing these funds in there. Now reflecting on Uganda's history, Museveni stated also that when the country gained independence, that is way back in 1962, it entered a modern cash economy. Today, when we talk about modern cash economy, then that is also where we need to understand that with only 9% of household participants, with also that line, then it means that we must work towards addressing these concerns, because if we not address these concerns, then it will be quite bad for us to be also lamenting and crying of poverty, yet we could be in position to also end poverty in there. Now reflecting on that journey, that is what we did see him talking about, and he blamed also former president, that is President Idi Amin Dada, for expelling key elements of Uganda's entrepreneur class. These are the essence for further also really black markets, speculation and smuggling, and despite the challenges, Museveni said his government has managed to restore prosperity, strategic security, and African solidarity. And we are able to already see him giving out awards. And also already, and these awards, of course, did go to some Indians, where we did see some Indians also already being awarded in there. But he always talks about the former regimes, more so the former regime of Idi Amin Dada, for doing a lot of also already mistakes. But how exactly is that also maybe going to address the future? Because if you talk about past, maybe it's good for us to also be able to talk about future, because if you talk about the past, it is also actually a reflection of what we want to work towards, that is the future. But what else is also really something we did see happening in there, but how have the Indians of today address the concerns of the growing speculations of unemployment in this country? This is another area which we must also be able to talk about. Because if you really talk to historians, many of them also will be able to sort of buy this idea of also really attacking the former presidents in there. But that is also something which we feel must also be able to talk about. Because we must talk about it, and we must also understand why this is so happening. And that would also, at the end of the day, paint for us an image to see what the future looks like. And that is one thing we need to work towards, and understand that indeed we have to work towards the future. And that is where we did see him also talking about the road that connects also really, that is from rural to Central African Republic, and we did see that happening at the national celebrations, and we are keenly following to see how this road will be built. And Uganda, which obtained also independence in 1962, also today has also lived 62 years, and a lot of issues also ranging from instability, and also really where we are seeing today Operation Shuja taking place in DRC, and also to make sure that the ADF are kicked out of the country and also out of the continent. But how are we working towards this? If you look at our also really money, the Uganda government is spending a lot of monies, worth 1.2 trillion, followed also by Uganda's military, also in country named Operation Shuja, targeting the Islamic also really state link, that's to Allied Democratic Forces, where we are seeing today many people being arrested. But how do we see an end to the ADF, just like the LRA? Because if you look at the ADF today, that is actually one area the government of Uganda must be able to work towards and address when it comes to total security, because I believe we are not a total secure nation in there when it comes to issues of security, where people are also being killed. And that is an area which we feel the government of Uganda must be able to work towards. And leaving that aside, that is also another story where we did see a NUP councillor also in the names of Dennis Senono is said to be arrested by also the security forces in there. But of course, that is an area which we did see happening in there. But who arrested him and on what grounds? These are issues which we feel must also be able to talk about, because it's another issue that is trending on X, more so among the supporters of NUP, who have also raised concern in relation to the arrest of one of their colleagues. That is in the names of Dennis Senono, who is currently said to be arrested by security forces. But who arrested him? We did see messages flowing where people also raised concern about this issue, and we are yet following up on this to see who exactly arrested him in there, and where is he being kept, and where is he being detained is another issue also which we feel must be investigated. And come tomorrow, we shall be letting you know where he is being kept. And leaving that aside, there was heavy deployment, that is at Ishaka, where students of Ishaka Adventist School have also striked, and this is really at the wrong time, where we are seeing them heading towards UNEB. But how is this happening, and what exactly is causing this? Because we are talking about UNEB, and we are as well talking about the middle of the term, because if you look at the beginning of the term, we're already counting down months into the third term, which is the promotional term. But if at all we start with nesting strikes at this period of time, then that is quite wrong. It's quite embarrassing for us to be seeing. But I want to assure you, there was heavy deployment, that's that of both police and military, at Ishaka Advanced College in Bushenyi, Ishaka Municipality, to stop students who had also really started a strike over a dance. But really, how do you strike over a dance? Just dance and disco. That is really quite embarrassing. And the incident happened, that's on October 8th at around 9 p.m. That's at Ishaka Adventist College. That's in Bushenyi, Ishaka Municipality. That is under Bushenyi district also really where we did see that happening. But over disco, really how does disco cause this such an issue? And that is really quite embarrassing. Where we did see Mr. Sumusime say the students had caused a lot of commotion and in retaliation to what also the authorities had advised and damaging school property worth millions of shillings just because of disco. Can't you wait to have discos at home? Now that the burden of also really restoring the damages that you have caused at the school is going back to the parents. We are going to be seeing some of you being expelled and also to find new schools come next year, and those in candidate classes, you will be required this time round to move from home. What does that imply? And how is that likely to impact on your academic progress? So I think it is really one area where people must also really be able to work towards. As learners, let's mind of our parents whom we have left home. Let's mind about those parents who are struggling to send us back to school, because to educate a learner is really something which I must say is quite difficult. It's really a heavy task, which also we must also be able to talk about, because to educate a learner, it takes a lot of sacrifice. And where we are seeing our learners also really becoming part of also really the goons and also really criminals in schools, it is really quite bad. But that is also really an area, a message which I must also send to the rest of the schools in the entire country, that we must desist from such practices. And you as the learner who is watching me this morning, I want to say avoid such practices, because you may be doing it as a group, but you are going to be fished alone as an individual, and you will be the one to face the challenges. It will be you to face your parents at home. With that, we are taking a short commercial break that will be also ushering us into our second hour, where we are going to be joining and still talking about lots of discussions. My name is Parish Majid. It's a great morning and also a great pleasure having you on board. We take a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back. We are back into the second hour, 5 minutes after 8 o'clock. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you on board from wherever you're watching us from. It could be within Western Sub-region, here in the districts of Arua District, Arua City, Maracha, Terego, Yumbe, Madiokolo, Nebi, Zomopakwach, Ajumani, Obongi, Moyo, and the rest, where you could be watching us from. I want to take this opportunity and say welcome on board. For those of you who are watching me still within the parts of northern Uganda, in the other districts already in there, I want to opportunity to welcome you on board, not forgetting those in western Uganda, because we do have colleagues who are always watching us, that is in the parts of Bulisa, Hoima, Masindi, and the rest. I want to take this opportunity still to say welcome aboard. What about those in the Toro sub-region, where you could be watching us from? We still say good morning, and those in Eastern, still we not take you for granted. And of course, where the cameras have been in the last 3 days, Bukele sub-region, where we did see Busia hosting the independence celebrations. I hope it was a colorful one. I hope it ended well for the people of Busia, and that is another area which we must always be happy of. To host such dignitaries, it comes with opportunities more so for those in business, and that is where now we want to begin our discussions in the second hour. We'd also remove the stories which we are seeing in the papers this morning and checking through on the monitor. That is where we did see also President Museveni, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, also really appraising Muslim community. That is for the successful community, also the milestones, and that is one area which we did see happening in there. But how do we take this, and how do we work on that now that the Muslim community have been appreciated? Now the President, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has applauded the Muslim community for achieving remarkable milestones, that's solely in the respective fields of faith and the education sector, and he made these remarks while speaking at the inaugural Muslim Women Leaders Conference that was at Old Kampala Senior Secondary School on October 8th, where Museveni said he was happy with the simple efforts Muslim leaders have made, leading to long-lasting results in communities. And he did trace back to still what happened during also Idi Amin's regime, where he said during Amin's time, the people who were also in charge had got money from Saudi Arabia to build mosques, but had not done so. And that is also an area which they say they will build cook structure, which also had also a crook tower. Now that Muslim also leaders kept telling me about the mosque, until I talked to also that is also Muammar Gaddafi, that is also who was assassinated in 2011 to build that is also the facility in there, and that is actually an area which also says also building of the Gaddafi mosque, also known as the Uganda Muslim Mosque, was also embarked on by former Ugandan President Idi Amin Dada during the 1970s after the Real National, also the Anglican and the Catholic communities had also well-established prayer homes compared to those also in the Islamic faith, and that is how Gaddafi had to also extend resources towards building this mosque also in Old Kampala, and the completion of it was done in the early 2000s. And that is one area which today, which we did see happening. And also when we talk about faith, yes, it's actually true that today people do not also have donors. Really, there's another project that is going on that is at the Rishat Mosque complex and business complex, which is also being developed today. This is actually an area which connects to exactly what the president is saying, that during also the past times, the Arab community used to extend monies for building mosques. But some people not build the mosques, others treat the money. I can be able to sort of mention to you several projects that we are channeled towards improving on the faith of the Islamic faith, more so in education. But today, all these projects have died because some people who maybe never thought that this would also maybe this should be able to sort of go on for generations. We engage in corruption. Today, these projects have died. I can be able to mention to you more than 10, which I know have today died, and today they are not being implemented. And today the mosques are not receiving money for being built. It means that Muslim community have to now stand on their own. That is the Muslim community of this country have to stand on their own when it comes to establishing these prayer centers. And with the growing population, we also are witnessing the growing population of the Muslim faith. So that means construction or expansion of these mosques will be done by the Muslim community themselves. They are not going to be depending and also maybe begging also for what we call funds from also the Arab world. So I think that is where we also must take this keenly. And on his part, the Mufti of Uganda, Sheikh Shaban Ramadan Mubaje, did go on to praise women in the Islamic community for being involved. That is also in running the affairs of both the religion and the country. Today, yes, we have women leaders who are doing a tremendous job in steering this country. Really, they're quite well. We have ministers who are women. We have also women in top government positions, both in political and also the non-political scene. We are seeing them doing a tremendous job, right from the city, from the country level up to the sub-counties. We are seeing women steering the affairs. And that is how today, when you talk about women empowerment, we must also really appraise those who are also making this a reality in there. Now, Sheikh Shaban Mubaje did go on to also encourage the women to continuously give themselves towards studying Islamic religion and serving their country, which is really quite interesting. We must not also limit ourselves as women and saying that I am a woman. I'm not only supposed to be in the house. I'm supposed to be at home taking care of the family. Today, the world has changed. We must be leaders. As women, we must also strive to also benefit from what the men could be benefiting from. And as Muslim women, you must also position yourselves and benefit just like any other person out there. Today, we are seeing a lot of women doing quite well. And that is also in different positions. And of course, they're doing well. And we must appraise them for that. And we hope they continue doing this in the best way. And that is where we are going to be leaving the discussion aside, but still in relation to what President said, and he did go on to preach unity. That is at prayer breakfast meeting, and that is another story we are seeing where President 7 has rallied religious leaders to preach and promote unity in the country as opposed to discriminatory messages made against also the traditional healers. And in his brief message delivered also at the 26th National Prayer Breakfast held at State House in Entebbe yesterday, Mr. Museveni encouraged the leaders to act against fuel divisions among the Ugandans. And the president was accompanied by the First Lady, that is Ms. Janet Katara Museveni, for this breakfast meeting in there. Now he reasoned that such forms of disunity plunged Uganda into civil unrest, and immediately after the post-independence period, thereby also stalling the development of this country. So he did go on to call for unity, and I believe unity is actually the way to go. We must be united force if at all we want to see this country develop, and that means we must also talk about unity. And without unity, I don't know where we shall be, but I hope with unity, we are going to be realizing the development that this country indeed deserves in there. And he therefore went on to urge the leaders and other people in society to focus on how to get something positive out of people, because there are people who just need information, and that is also an area which traces way back to 1986. And he also reminded guests of parable of Good Samaritan, where a Samaritan helped a traveler who had not been helped by a priest and people of his ethnicity. So I think it's quite good for us to solely help irrespective of who we are, so long as we have the powers, so long as we are disposable and maybe of helping. And that is where, if at all we are positioned to help, then let's extend a hand to whoever deserves our help in there. Now the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Anita Mong, did go on also to express fear that Uganda's founding pillars are being threatened by forces of immorality such as that witnessed in the aftermath of enacting the Anti-Homosexuality Act. And today when we talk about independence, this is actually where somebody could be doubting the independence of this country, because the powers, most those who colonize us, at a time where they also still want to give us instructions and where they still want to direct us on what to do, and then that becomes quite unfair. So Ms. Among, we did go on to also state that Uganda's legislative arm underwent a heavy backlash on social media platforms, as witnessed during the parliamentary exhibition early this year, where she also reiterated comments that such forces were fueled by the anti-gay law. And if you really see, if you really reflect back, a few weeks ago we were able to sort of see anti-corruption marches, which were also targeted towards the parliament. But how do we believe that, how can the citizen, maybe how can the believers and the organizers of this protest believe that indeed it is not only because of the anti-homosexuality law, because most of them claim that it's corruption that is in this country, and they're tired of this corruption in the country. Most of the young people feel that is corruption. But with evidence of corruption, maybe with the loopholes and the gaps in the government when it comes to corruption, how maybe can we convince the ordinary persons to be stopped, maybe convinced to believe, and also if we fail to join in the hands against corruption? How can we make sure that they believe that there's indeed external influence? As we talk more about corruption, that is also one area which I feel people must also be able to understand and must also be able to believe in, because if we talk about all this, then definitely that is an area where we must also talk about. And today, Uganda marks 62nd independence anniversary, which was celebrated yesterday. And really, how do we believe and how can we end the aspects of neocolonialism? Because much as we're talking about colonialism being done, there's still another war that we have to fight, what we call neocolonialism, which is really something happening today, and we cannot also run away from the fact that indeed the country is still suffering from what we call neocolonialism. This is also really something happening in the post, maybe colonial era. How do we end the impacts of neocolonialism, where countries are being directed on what to do? And I believe this is also sometimes coming back as a result of the fact that some of the countries have to depend on aid to fund their budgets, and Uganda is not exceptional. How do we as citizens want to end these issues? It's quite simple. We have to pay our taxes so that the taxes only can be able to be used very well, and Ugandans can be able to sort of dedicate and deliberate on what they want, what kind of law they need, and they're not sort of being forced just because somebody out there is giving us money in terms of donations. And this goes back to those who are handling these taxes. There's a tax scandal, I do understand, that is also being hit in URA. Let us use the monies that citizens pay as taxes very well. Other than that, people are going to be losing trust in paying taxes, and we shall have nothing other than also depending on what we call donations. And that is where we're going to be leaving a discussion aside. But I want to assure you there's a tax scandal in URA, which I will be talking to you this morning. But with that, before that, at least 1 in 8 girls and women are being raped or sexually assaulted before the age of 18 years. This is as per the report of UNICEF. How do we see this happening? And as parents, what duty do we have towards ending this? Because if you look at 1 in 8 girls who are being raped, and these are girls and women, or they are being assaulted, this is really something which we must also be able to talk about. And now, if you look at the statistics, at least we're talking about more than 370 million girls and women are alive today, and 1 in every 8 of these worldwide is also experiencing what we call rape or sexual assault before the age of 18. This is per the United Nations report. That's from the United Nations Children Agency, which also was released yesterday. And what does it mean? Now the number rises that to 650 million, or 1 in 5, where also when taking into account non-contact form of sexual violence, or such as online or verbal abuse. UNICEF has reported that. That means that women are going sexual abuse both physically and non-physically. When we talk about non-physically, online, people are being assaulted, people are being victimized. But how do we end this? How do we empower our women? How do we empower girls to also understand their duties when it comes to sexual rights? Because rape is really a crime, but today people are going through rape without necessarily knowing that it's a violation of their rights. As a married woman, you still have your right to say, tonight, this man, I'm not giving you this. Today we're not doing it. It is your right. If he uses force, that is rape. And you have to report and also maybe find justice. But how do we also see this, given the fact that also some of the cultures do not permit people to go to court? More so the Lubara culture, where the issues of Aruba are very much common. Yet, these are issues that we must also respect. It is supposed to be with consent. Without consent, it is rape. And how do you allow rape to go on? And how can we end these issues of rape, where sometimes it is forcefully, where people are being grabbed? How do we ensure this? Because the dangers are quite clear, where we've seen people developing complications just simply because they are raped. Now the report which we did see from UNICEF also really say that while girls and women we are worst affected, 240 to 310 million boys and men around 1 to 11 have experienced rape or sexual abuse during childhood. Yes, today we are seeing young boys and children who are being also taken advantage of by older women or older girls, which is really another form of rape. If at all you are saying to this young boy, do this and that, you are doing rape, you risk being arrested. And if at all you are arrested, there are laws in place that will be dealing with you. And today in Arua City, I want to assure you that we have the city court in operations, and the GBV ordinance is in the final stages. That means we shall be having the GBV ordinance where if at all you are arrested in the morning, your files will be presented in the midday, and in the afternoon, you are in yellow. That is how the city court is already operating. And that means for you who is within the city, you should be able to sort of understand that rape is indeed a crime. Sexual abuse is really a big task that we must be able to talk about. How do we end that? It is quite simple, by understanding the law. And the law is quite clear and takes its stance. That is on saying rape is not allowed. And that is what we need to also talk about, and we need to also work on. Much as you're married, still, that does not guarantee you to use force. It is rape. And once you are arrested for rape, I don't know how you will be coming out of the cells, how you will be coming out of the courts of law to explain to your colleagues that your wife had taken you to court because you raped her. That is actually one thing we need to also understand. And as a woman, to that young boy whom you're raping, you will be also in position, I don't know how you will be carrying the shame to explain how you maybe did take advantage of this young person in there. Now the report also, as per UNICEF, comes ahead of inaugural Global Ministerial Conference on Ending Violence Against Children in Colombia, which is set to take place next month. And UNICEF said its findings also highlight the urgent need for intensified global action, including by strengthening laws and also helping children recognize and also understand their sexual rights, by also reporting instances where their rights are being violated. And UNICEF also did go on to say that sexual violence cuts across geographical, cultural, and economic boundaries. But South Africa has the highest number of victims, with the 79 million girls and women, or 22% affected. And Eastern and Southern Eastern Asia follows with what we call 75 million, or 8%. But that does not limit and also exclude us people of East Africa. It means that we are still within there. But how do we end that? How can we make sure that people understand that indeed rape is a crime? That is where we shall be leaving that discussion aside and still heading back with the discussions to Uganda. And this time around, this is on the Nile Post, where we are seeing the CDF, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, saying that he is not also against the West. That is another story we are seeing, where the first son and the commander of defense forces, General Kainerugaba Muhoozi, has come out to clarify his stance on relations already with Western nations, following a recent public uproar against his remarks also on social media. And Muhoozi, who was also previously being vocal about Uganda's foreign relations, posted a statement explaining the criticism are not also directed to the West in general also, but a stand against what perceives as justice inflicted also upon African nations. And today we are seeing African nations going through a lot, and the general in the names of Muhoozi has come out to talk about that. And Muhoozi, known for his forthright communication style, sought to dispel rumors also about his controversial remarks, equated to rejection of all Western countries, stressing that some of these nations remain close friends of Uganda. And recently we did see also him asking one of the leaders, more so one of the diplomats, also to apologize or risk going back. And that is what we did see happening in there. And this is maybe coming as far as this report, because many people have been feeling, maybe due to his remarks, which are a bit controversial, that he could be maybe against the Western powers. But of course, he has now come out to explain that he is not against any foreign nation. And in his statement, Muhoozi also listed several Western countries that he holds also in high regard, including Sweden, the United Kingdom, Italy, France, the Netherlands, Ireland, and Belgium, which he says he also has been working also with them in regard also high spirits in there. And that is one area which we feel must also be able to talk about, because if you look at the issues and the growing also demand also for this, many people have been talking about this, more so in the style of the communication mode that the general has been using. More so when it comes to his X handle, usually people have been following to see this time around what he is likely to post. And that is where we did see him also coming out to now explain that he's not against any foreign power, but against some individuals who want to also undermine African leaders, who want to influence the affairs of the African states. That is what he actually did go on to say as we are getting to move on with the show. We're just left with 5 minutes to clock 8:30, where we are going to be having another short commercial break that will be ushering us into the final discussions, and also really in relation to the international and what we call also sports stories. But before that, I want to assure you that there is a tax evasion scandal which is rocking Uganda Revenue Authority, where money worth 230 billion is said to be involved in this scandal. And now the Uganda Revenue Authority is also really at the center of brewing scandal, accused of enabling a shillings 231 billion tax evasion scheme involving also really animal feed concrete importers. That is another story we're seeing right now. And over the last 6 years, several major importers have been exploiting tax loopholes, severely undermining the local animal feeds industry. And that is also where we did see that happening. Now the core of the controversy lies in the classification of imported animal feed also concretes as mixed solely which under East African Community Common External Tariff allows importers to avoid paying 10% import duty and 18% VAT. That's another thing that we are seeing happening right now. But how do we allow the issues of tax evasion, and maybe how do we evade the taxes? It means that you have not been paying taxes. You are doing businesses which are liable and also really eligible to paying taxes, but you have been sneaking. And sometimes who allows these taxes maybe to be evaded? It is officials within the tax collection bodies. It is those people who are also allowing that happen. And the miscalculation has allowed companies like the Cowardice Uganda, Agrivities Uganda Limited, and Impact Sales Uganda Limited to evade paying taxes, while local produce dealers who use organic materials such as soya, sunflower, and cotton are left grappling with unfair competition. And Emmanuel Semugeyi, a tax expert, explains the gravity of the situation by classifying also really concrete as premixes. The importers have also placed themselves in the tax-free zone. This isn't just oversight, it is smuggling, whether through negligence or deliberate action, which also one of the tax experts terms as smuggling. Yes, it could be smuggling, much as we are always running up and down after members of the public with numberless motorcycles, those with the fuel. Indeed, it is actually clear that there is actually a big gap in Uganda Revenue Authority that must be dealt with. That is in terms of tax evasion, more so for those importing animal feeds who have been suspected to be sneaking their produce without paying taxes. Then why do we run after small monies? For instance, the motorcycles and oil, yet they are big slots that we can be able to touch. and we could be able to solely maybe have addressed in there. That is another area which many people have been talking about and have been feeling out of place when it comes to the way and the mode of operations the taxes are being also obtained in there. Now, Emmanuel Semugenyi, a tax expert, explained that, and despite URAs also issuing demand notices to recover unpaid taxes, insiders claim that top URA officials, including Commissioner, that is John Musinguzi, have said also the companies from enforcement. And in October 2022 letter, Mr. Musinguzi advised Cowardice Uganda that no enforcement actions will be taken against them, effectively halting tax collection processes. And if at all he did that, how do we now blame the other enforcement officers? It means that this is an issue that must have been checked right in the offices, right from the top offices to also really see to that also really this matter is investigated, because in most times people feel unfair, more so when it comes to the way the motorcycles and the oil is being impounded. All this is smuggling. Tax experts, by the way, have termed the issues of tax evasion as smuggling, but we see it going on. How do we end that? Maybe how do you feel as an ordinary citizen out there when it comes to these issues? We are taking a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV channel 477. That is on Saturdays, and we are there on Zuku on channel 0073 and online, of course, across all our socials. Where we're live on Facebook, we are on YouTube. You can still be in position to also share your ideas and share your thoughts by dropping your comments on the comment section on those various media platforms. For now, we are taking the last commercial break. When we return back, it's going to be a marathon where we shall be letting you know what's happening internationally and summarizing the entire discussion, as always, with what is happening in the world of sports. Do not forget, it being a Thursday, today we shall be having the Eolas News Bulletin coming immediately after here, and the last edition of what we call the Northern Request Hour with Olivia UG, together with DJ Jero, who will be coming in later on, and thereafter we shall be having the rest of the programs as planned in there. But for now, we are taking a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Kylian Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to Star Times Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. Star Times Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back. We are back into the last half of today's discussions, and where we are going to be letting you know what exactly is happening elsewhere across borders. But before that, we still have lots more to also let you know of within the country. And I want to show you that the Muslim lawyers did have the elections, where Semambo has now been elected as the chairperson and the president of them in there. Now the Uganda Muslim Lawyers Association has elected Counsel Rashid Semambo as the president of their umbrella body that brings together Muslim lawyers in the country. And today when we talk about Muslim lawyers, there are quite many whom I know who are also doing quite well in their council, Salim Council, who there are very many, and that is where we are going to be seeing Counsel Semambo becoming their president in their. And Counsel Semambo was unopposed in the elections held, that is at Hotel African on 8th of October. But how do we say elected when the person was unopposed? I think that is also where we need to say declared unopposed. And speaking to voters after elections, Mr. Semambo vowed to move also the association to greater heights by bringing together all the stakeholders on board. And Semambo underlined also the importance of unity amongst Muslim lawyers, saying it is the cornerstone of success. And that is one thing where we did see him going on to urge Muslims in the country to build that is competence so that they can be able to compete on the national and international job market, saying sympathy is no longer sustainable. And that is actually one thing I want to talk about, because if you look at the issues of sympathy, today many people have also been able to leave themselves out just because of sympathy. It means that that is also where they need to build their capacity. As an ordinary person, you need to build on your capacity, support and strengthen each other so that you also grow, so that you can be able to, at the end of the day, tap and benefit into those opportunities that are at the country and national level. And they appeal to Muslim lawyers to share ideas on how to also refund, also how to obtain resources for the students so that they can start supporting those who are vulnerable. And the same also went on to encourage the Muslim lawyers to have integrity, saying it also really wants, it's one of the reasons for also to have being appointed in the judiciary and also other government also entities. It means that they must also be able to have integrity, and having integrity is actually the way to go. And now the outgoing president, Mr. Ali Kankanka, has said that during also their 3-year tenure, they had registered significant strides, although the association also has a long way to achieve. That's its vision, and that is also where the association is still said to have a long way to go in terms of achieving its vision and mission. But how is the new leadership going to be working towards this? I believe it's quite possible. One, let the leaders identify and work towards the goals and the mission of the association. And if they're not going to be doing that, we are not going to be seeing that becoming possible. And that is where, at the end of the day, people are not going to be also deciding and also wanting to join this association. But that is also one area which they must also embark on. We want to see this association be for all the Muslims in the country. Today we have lawyers who are Muslim lawyers who are based in Koboko. We have Muslim lawyers who are in Maracha. We have Muslim lawyers who are in Karamoja. We have Muslim lawyers who are in Moroto. We have Muslim lawyers who are in Kumi. We have Muslim lawyers who are in Barara, and the entire country. How can we bring all this together is what the new leadership, in my own opinion, must be able to first work towards. Let the body be for all the Muslims, because it is said to be Uganda Muslim lawyers. Why don't you make it broader, and to make sure that everyone is brought on board? And that is also, in my own opinion, where I feel at the end of the day it will become powerful. Just like maybe the Uganda Law Society, just like maybe another body, this would actually grow and thrive to become one of the strongest associations. And that is where, at the end of the day, we must also join hands. And we did see also the new outgoing also leader went on to ask the new cabinet to continue tracking the Kadi courts, to build, to also professionalize them, and saying it will enhance access to justice and create more employment opportunities for the young people. And today, if you look at the Muslim system of governance, that's the Kadi courts. It is actually one area which I want to ask the Muslim lawyers to work towards, and where the issues of the Muslims can be identified and also be deliberated in the Kadi courts, which is only one initiative that would also be able to solely promote Islamic system of governance. And that is only one area which at the end of the day will be quite well, where we will be able to solely support the judiciary. If you look at the judiciary today, it is overwhelmed by issues of the court backlogs, where there are huge cases also, and the judiciary is overwhelmed. And if at all we empowered the Kadi courts, some of the courts could be, maybe some of the cases would be channeled towards the Kadi courts, and they would be also deliberated timely in there, and that would also at the end of the day avoid issues of delays in the justice system. And that is one area which I feel at the end of the day the new leadership also must be able to work on. And about Mr. Semowo is a distinguished lawyer with 13 years of advancing expertise in legal practice, financial management, and international transactions. And in 2020, he was among the 20 candidates that visited the Uganda Law Society presidency and also vied for that position, and which he did not also win in there, and in which we did see Mr. Oundo Bernard emerging as the president of that society in there, and he was among those who also aspired. And just like example, Sophia Navagala Chigozi, Zakia Wanjui, Shafik Isada, Afua Omwiza, Nalovo Mashadia, Nachibuka, Usama Sebufu were also elected unopposed as vice president, general secretary, deputy secretary, treasurer, publicity, and secretary for Dawa, respectively. What really transpired? Why do most of the positions go unopposed? This is where I want to interest myself, and also want to ask: are there no Muslim lawyers who could vie for these positions? Why is it that people are not interested? Why is it that these positions are going unopposed? This is also an area which we must caution, and we must solely ask next time in the next elections, let there be competitions. Let people aspire. Let people be voted. And that will also, at the end of the day, make the public understand how maybe these elections were organized. And that's why we're going to be leaving that discussion aside. And as we are heading on in the country, today we know that cases of Mpox are also rising. And prison also in Nakasongola has been closed as the cases of Mpox hit 24 in there. And now Mpox cases have hit 24 in Nakasongola, up from 18 also reported in October 3rd, prompting the district authorities to ban prison visits. And these are cases also which are common in the prison facilities. But how do we also really avoid those cases? And this also accounts for nearly half of the country's Mpox case. Lord, since also really that the disease was confirmed on July 24th, and most of the cases are now being reported in Nakasongola and in the Ajuman district, which is already one of the districts in West Nile sub-region. One case was reported, as other also really contacts were being traced and investigated to see how many cases will be registered from this region. Now, as part of the case management, government and partners have since set 2 isolation centers at Luampanga Health Center 3 and Nakasongola Health Center 4, respectively, to also really address this rising also threat in there. Now, World Health Organization, technical in charge also really of case management, Dr. Ernest Alenyo Ngabirano, also really went on to also confirm establishment of 24-bed capacity unity that is at Luampanga Health Center 3 by the Ministry of Health. That is to help deal with the cases of Mpox, which is also another disease that is also becoming and posing a threat to the country, and that's where we did see Uganda prisons have been secured as an independent Mpox isolation unit for also case management after the case was also really confirmed at Nakasongola prison. That means that they already have an isolation center that will be keeping those prison inmates as also really safe in there, because if you look at Mpox, you develop rashes, you develop skin patches. Many people don't actually know what Mpox is. And in Lugbara, it is actually what we call ngurua, or others call it rashes. But it's not just mere rashes, it is actually a disease. And that means if at all you start developing rashes, do not hesitate to go to the nearest health facility. And you must avoid close contact, because if at all you not avoid close contact, then you are going to be infecting those people around you. And that is where it will be becoming dangerous, because this disease is dangerous. It can actually lead to death, and can lead to loss of sight. We have seen people have lost their eyesight as a result of failure to treat this disease early. And somebody may be asking, how does this disease spread? Mpox is actually a disease that is spread through contact. That's only where if you have handshakes, if you have maybe intercourse, you still get it, because recently we had a training on Mpox, and we were advised by health experts that this disease can actually spread through sexual intercourse. Even if you have condoms, still you're going to be getting it, because it is a disease that is entirely contracted through contact. That means you must also really check if at all there are signs of Mpox. And if you see the signs, run away. And that will also help you avoid the disease. And that is one training. And I really want to say, we would also wish to extend this to you as the viewer, because recently we had a training and an engagement with officials from Ministry of Health about the reporting on Mpox. And the quiet trick and the easiest trick to avoid that is actually avoiding contact. And then thirdly, washing your hand with clean water and soap and sanitize if possible. That will also help you still avoid the disease, because the disease, just like COVID-19, if let's say I have the disease and I come and touch some surface, and you come from wherever you're coming from and still touch on that same surface, you risk getting this disease. So I think it's a disease mainly of contact, where we should be able to solely work towards, because we may be talking about it in Nakasongola. People are moving. We have animals that come from Nakasongola, and these animals are being transported by human beings. What if one comes from that side and brings the disease here? How ready are we as people of Arua City to also really maybe end this disease? And that is where at the end of the day, as per West Nile sub-region, we shouldn't also look at it as a disease that is mainly in Nakasongola, because that's West Nile sub-region. We already have a case that is in Ajuman district, as the contacts are being traced and also investigated in there. But we are following up. And Arua City and Arua Regional Forest, of course, in a meeting with them, they also came out and say they are already ready to also really undertake this disease and also give people treatment where necessary. But we are saying you risk getting the disease so long as you don't take advantage of yourself by observing and also respecting the precaution measures in there. Now, the World Health Organization indicates that also Uganda has so far registered over 60 cases of Mpox in districts like Nakasongola, Kampala, Wakiso, Mayuge, Kasese, Mitiana, Nakaseke, Mukono, Jinja, Kagadi, Singiro, Amuru, and Ajumani district. And Amuru is on the list of those who have already have the cases. It means that we must also really give keen attention to also really making sure that we do not contract the disease in and there. But however, no fatalities have been posted as of October 9th, which was yesterday. It means that nobody has also really lost life. It means that it is really a disease that can be controlled and also really treated in there. Now, Mpox, a zoonotic disease, infectious disease, is caused by the monkeypox virus, and this disease was initially known as the monkeypox, but today it is actually a disease that is known as Mpox. Because if you look at the origin, it is called the monkeypox virus that presents symptoms similar to smallpox. And many people may be confusing the monkeypox or what we call the Mpox to what we call this, maybe the monkeypox, or maybe to also the smallpox. But we are saying this is all entirely in the hands of medical personnel to also really maybe go and differentiate whether what you are having is Mpox or it is smallpox. And while addressing the Nakasongola Mpox Task Force, Minister of Health Senior Epidemiologist, that is Dr. Bernard Lubwama, revealed that the type of Mpox present in Uganda is deadly if not managed. And that means we may have challenges. And our neighbors, Democratic Republic of Congo, are actually the area where this disease is mostly said to be. But how ready are we, given the proximity with also the country in there? Because if you look at DRC, today we have traders who go on and trade that side. We have others who as well cross from that side to enter this country. And this disease traces its origin in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And today many of the cases, as per the World Health Organization report, are actually from the DRC. How ready are we for this? Due to the cross-border movements, that is also an area where we would also wish to also talk about. And now Mpox disease presents with symptoms also that include skin rash, we have fever, genital ulcer, we have headache, fatigue, muscle pain, oral ulcers, cough, and sore throat, among other symptoms. If at all you see and also tend to also have any of these symptoms, please do not hesitate to visit the nearest health facility so that certainly you can be in position to also get the kind of treatment that you want, and that would at the end of the day help spare your life from getting the Mpox disease in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion with, and look at now international stories happening across the Ugandan borders. And in Mozambique, we are going to be seeing votes also after President Nyusi declined to aspire for the third time in there. And this is a story from the BBC, where Mozambicans are set to head for a general election, with ruling also the Frelimo party that has been in power for half a century like to hold on power. And President Filipe Nyusi, who is stepping down after serving two-term limit, was also among the first to vote when the polls also opened. That's at 7 a.m. That's local time. In also something we did see happening in there. Now the ruling party's presidential candidate is 47-year-old Daniel Chapo, who has already a respected known figure until nomination, and presents himself as an agent of change. And his rivals are independent Venancio Modlane Osofu Mamdan, a former rebel commander and leader of main opposition Renamo party, and Letaro Simango from the Mozambique Democratic Movement, MDM party, among others who are also vying for those positions in there. Now the election is also regarded as the watershed moment for the Southern African nation, as for the first time the Frelimo candidate did not also fight in the independence war, and the party has been in power since Mozambique regained independence from Portugal in the year 1975. We actually got independence faster ahead of them. And if you look at Mozambique, this is actually a country that was also really colonized by Portugal in there, and this is actually where the Portuguese conquest also taking place in that country in there. And now the party has been also in power, and this is the Frelimo party, where we did see strong leaders. And if you look at the independence struggle, we had very many leaders working towards African continent to also see to that Africans got liberated. And in Mozambique, the Frelimo also had a tremendous job in terms of also really making sure that the Africans in that country also really got independence. And Chapo, who was also born 2 years after independence, is also seen by many as untouched by the party's various corruption scandals. And Nyusi cast his vote, and that's in the capital Maputo, where early morning voters also had to brave the rain, and afterwards solely called for patience from the electorate. And that is one thing which we did see happening in there, where there were rains early morning to also see that the election also goes on as planned in there. But that could have been a sign of blessing, because in Africa, whenever we see maybe rains or drizzles, we tend to take that as a form of blessing. And I believe the new office awaiting is also already maybe one that is blessed as per these rains in there. And more than 16 million people are registered to vote, and the students also really waiting to vote in Maputo reflected the mood of many young people to also have also their participation in these elections. And today, elections in this country, in these also nations, are mostly being conducted and also being motivated by the young population. And these are the youth who, in most cases, want to see they take part in this election. And that is where, as Uganda, we also gearing towards our own. We must make sure that the youths whom we are also trying to bring on board do not also really be used and also really maybe engage in bad politics. And when we talk about bad politics, it's actually one that has already dragged the country behind. But I hope we will also be able to sort of copy lessons from what is happening maybe in Mozambique, and where the Mozambicans are voting for the president in India. Most analysts say the biggest challenge for any new president would be creating what we call economic opportunities and jobs in a country where 62% of the population live in extreme poverty. And earlier on, I was able to talk about a scenario where the president, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, did say that the government cannot create employment opportunity for all. But let the people take advantage of the different government poverty eradication programs to also really make sure they improve on their livelihoods in there. And Mozambique, which is still suffering from the effects of the 16-year civil war that ended in 1992, had hoped for economic boost with discovery of rich gas deposits in the north. And today, we are still seeing them struggling to also really see to it that they get something small out of those mineral deposits. And leaving that aside, moving now to Cameroon, away from Mozambique, we are still seeing there where the people of Cameroon are insisting that the president is well despite months' absence. A few days ago, somebody was telling me that the president of Cameroon, in the names of Biya, had actually passed on, and that's also really where we did see Cameroon's president in excellent health, senior, and also really, and we did see also Cameroon's president is in excellent health. Senior officials did go on to also confirm that after also really, the president disappearing also really out of public domain for a long period of time. If you look at Paul Biya, the president of Cameroon, he is 91 years old now, and today many people have not been able to see him appear, that is also in public space, which also prompted also many people to say he maybe died. But officials are saying the man is alive and is also doing well. And the statement also comes days after opposition parties and civil society groups calling for information on Biya's health and exact whereabouts. Where many people want to see where Biya is, the 91-year-old is maybe hiding, or could it be sick? But officials say he is in good health, and Biya has for long been criticized for amount of times he spends outside the country, and in particular in Switzerland, where he lives in there. Now in 2018, the Organized Crime and Corruption Report Project also reported that since coming to power in 1982, Biya had spent also equivalent of 4.5 years on overseas trips, and that is one thing that did not go on well with people here. Now democratic gains have so far been reversed, leading to abolition also of president term limits at 2008, and Cameroon is also in the grips of secessionist war that killed more than 6,000 people in the west of the country, and that is one area where we are going to be leaving that discussion aside with. And now to summarize the entire discussions with what's happening in the world of sports, and remember it being a Thursday, we are getting closer to the weekend where we are likely to see a number of games being played. And this is right from the regional league. I do understand the regional leagues are already returning back. The four big leagues did return over the other weekend. And of course, we are going to be seeing the regional leagues already returning, and we are seeing our clubs like Lia, clubs like Paida, clubs like Otramachaku, clubs like Nebi Centro also really gearing towards that, and that means they already planning to also really see to it that also really they play the games in the best way in there, and that's where we shall be also really seeing games being played. And at the end of the day, this is actually to make sure that you get comprehensive details on what is happening in the world of soccer, in the world of athletics, not maybe excluding other games. But of course, more details in the world of sports is usually on our program of Wisho Time. But before that, I want to give you maybe information in some of the games that will be going on. We still have the Nations League returning back, where we shall be having also some of the games also being played in there. And that is where today we shall be seeing a game between British Virgin Islands and St. Kitts and Nevis going on, which did go on. And we shall be seeing also the games going on. That is where we did see also already many games ongoing. And Champions League is still ongoing for both men and women. And last night we did see a Champions League game between Arsenal and Bayern Munich, where the Bayern Munich women team were able to beat the Arsenal side by 5-2. And that means Bayern still keeps on dominating over Arsenal both on males and female side. And that is actually one thing we did see happening in there. And we are still seeing the UEFA Nations League going on. And we shall be seeing a game tonight between Israel and France, where we shall be seeing Italy taking on Belgium. And in League B, we shall be seeing Group 2, which of the group we shall be seeing England taking on Greece, where Finland will be taking on Ireland, and Austria will be taking on Kazakhstan. Norway will be playing against Slovenia, and that is how the games will be going on in the UEFA Nations League. What about in the World Cup qualifiers? We shall be having a game between Bolivia and Colombia, and all this is to make sure we keep you informed in all aspects. And of course, more details in the world of sports will be coming through on the Wisu time from 2 to 3 p.m. with Owen Ezaga. But before that, we still have lots of interesting programs also set for you in there. And that is also where I will be letting you know maybe on some of the games that will be going on this morning in here. And up next is the Elders News Bulletin with Fete Emmanuel. And he is ready. And thereafter, we shall be having the last edition of the Northern Request Hour for this week. And thereafter, the Lembangea will be coming through, and not forgetting the Street Talk, plus many other interesting programs to follow on the due course of the day. I'm out. Until tomorrow, have a good day.